They warned us not to enter after midnight. They said only crazy people go there at night and they never come back. Well, we didn't listen and we entered. What we captured on camera will haunt us forever. This is the truth behind the suicide cemetery where the dead do want sleep and visitors do want always leave. If you're new here, make sure to smash that subscribe button, because I only cover real paranormal activity and scary stories caught on camera. The scariest part is that all of these stories are true. Now, let's get into the video. Have you ever heard of the suicide cemetery? Maybe. Well, if you haven't, then get ready to learn about one of the most haunted cemeteries in the world. The Suicide Cemetery is located in Los Angeles, California, and was once just an ordinary cemetery. That was until people began dying mysteriously and their bodies were found buried in the cemetery without any identification. It is believed that these people had taken their own lives and their bodies were dumped in the cemetery by unknown individuals. As a result, the cemetery earned its grim nickname. The Suicide Cemetery has a long and dark history dating back to the early 20th century. During this time, Los Angeles was experiencing a population boom, and the city's cemeteries were becoming overcrowded. In an effort to find a solution to this problem, the city purchased a large plot of land outside the city limits and established a cemetery. However, this cemetery was not meant for those who had died of natural causes or from illness. It was specifically designated for those who had taken their own lives. At first, the cemetery was relatively peaceful, but over the years, rumors began to spread about strange and disturbing activity. Some people claimed that they had seen ghosts wandering through the cemetery at night, while others reported hearing the sound of screams and gunshots. These stories only added to the cemetery's reputation as a place where the dead did not rest in peace. In the following decades, the cemetery continued to serve as a burial ground for those who had died by suicide. It became a place where families could lay their loved ones to rest without fear of judgment or stigma. However, the cemetery's reputation as a haunted place remained. One day, a group of teenagers decided to test their courage and spend the night in the cemetery. They dared each other to explore the grounds and capture any evidence of paranormal activity on camera. They set up their cameras and waited in the darkness. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching them. They turned their camera around and saw a shadowy figure walking towards them. The figure seemed to be tall and thin, like a skeleton. It was moving slowly and deliberately, and the teens could hear its bones creaking with each step. They tried to run away, but the figure seemed to be everywhere. They ran and hid, but the figure found them again and again. Eventually, the teens were so terrified that they fled the cemetery and never returned. Another visitor, a young woman who had come to pay her respects to a loved one, suddenly felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She turned around, but there was no one there. She continued walking, but she kept feeling cold hands on her body. She turned around again, but still no one was there. Eventually, she broke down crying and ran out of the cemetery. It's also rumored that the cemetery is cursed. Some believe that anyone who enters the cemetery after dark is doomed to wander the grounds for eternity. Others say that those who take pictures in the cemetery will have their cameras broken, and some claim that those who visit the cemetery will never find peace in their life. But perhaps the most terrifying story of all is that of those who have disappeared in the cemetery. There have been several cases of people who have entered the cemetery and simply vanished without a trace. Some say they were taken by the ghosts, while others believe they were sacrificed to the devil. Whatever the case may be, these disappearances have only added to the cemetery's reputation as a dangerous place. Many people refuse to go near the cemetery, believing that it's cursed and that anyone who enters it will be in danger. While there is no evidence to support these claims, the legends persist and continue to grow. To put your mind at ease, I went to the Suicide Cemetery and spent the night there. We camped out overnight, and here's what happened. I took our camera with me as I wandered the dark paths between the headstones. The air was heavy with the smell of damp earth and decaying flowers. I could feel the weight of countless eyes watching my every move. I stopped to examine the weathered inscriptions on some of the graves, each one a reminder of a life cut short. As the minutes ticked by, the silence became deafening. It was broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the rustling of leaves in the nearby trees. I could feel a growing sense of unease, like a cold hand gripping my heart. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me. I turned around, but there was nothing there. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but the noise continued to grow louder and more frequent. I started to feel a sense of dread, like something was lurking in the shadows, watching me. Then I saw it. A dark shape was moving towards me through the trees. My heart raced as I tried to make out the shape. It seemed to be tall and thin, like a human, yet it moved with an unnatural stiffness. It was as if it were made of shadows. As it drew closer, I could see that it had no face. It was just a formless void where a face should be. It reached out a hand towards me, and I recoiled in horror. Then it disappeared. I stood frozen in fear, unable to move or speak. I wanted to run, but my legs felt heavy, as if anchored to the spot. The silence descended once again, and I was left alone in the darkness. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to break free from my paralysis, and I ran as fast as I could from the cemetery. The next morning, I returned to the cemetery to investigate further, but there was no sign of any disturbance. The dark shape I had seen the night before was gone, and there was no record of any visitors having entered the cemetery after dark. Had I imagined the whole thing? Or had I really encountered something evil in the depths of the suicide cemetery? Today, the suicide cemetery remains an eerie and unsettling place. Visitors come from all over to pay their respects to those who have died by suicide or to experience the cemetery's supposed paranormal activity. However, many locals refuse to go near the cemetery, believing that it's cursed and that anyone who enters it will be in danger. If you decide to visit the suicide cemetery, be prepared for an experience that will stay with you for a lifetime. You may not believe in ghosts or curses, but the energy of this place is truly something else. And now for the big question. Is the suicide cemetery actually haunted? There have been countless reports of strange and unexplained activity in the cemetery, but many of these stories are likely exaggerated or fabricated. The cemetery's reputation as a haunted place has made it a popular destination for those seeking a thrill or an encounter with the paranormal. However, there is no concrete evidence to support the claims of haunting. It is important to remember that those who have died in the cemetery were real people with real families. It's disrespectful and insensitive to make light of their deaths or to exploit their loved ones' grief. Whether or not you believe in ghosts and the supernatural, the suicide cemetery is a place of tragedy and mourning. It should be treated with respect and dignity. So what do you think? Is the suicide cemetery really haunted? Or is it just a spooky story that has been blown out of proportion? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it to the end of the video, you're braver than most. But the question is, would you visit the suicide cemetery? Let us know in the comments. And if you crave more real horror, smash that subscribe button before the next victim is chosen. Turn on notifications or risk missing the truth. Thank you for watching. Until next time.